Hello and welcome everyone to our Summer 2026 update webinar. Today it's going to be my colleague Janka and me talking about a couple of things that we've been working on in this release cycle. First, we'll take a look at the Resco Mobile Platform and what's new there, and afterwards Janka will give you a brief in how Resco Forms are evolving at the moment. Last but not least, we're going to have a dedicated Q&A session. Now, let's hop into it without any further ado. First, we're going to talk about SmartSync. But before we get into what it actually is, we need to understand the problems that we've identified to actually develop something called SmartSync. As you guys might know, our offline sync engine, the thing that actually makes everything work smoothly and be really performant in Resco, has its own legacy and might have its own set of problems. For example, we know that full incremental syncs are unnecessarily time-consuming when users only need to update specific data segments. At the same time, users are forced into an all-or-nothing approach for data refreshes, even when they only need specific information. And last but not least, certain entities or sync activities disproportionately slow down the entire sync process. This set of problems led us to think about introducing a more granular approach to sync itself. Now let's look into the solution and how it works. There are two main aspects to this: the Woodford and the configuration of SmartSync, and the mobile app, which basically acts as a client for the sync engine. There is nothing in between. These two must always work together when it comes to sync. So now let's go to Woodford and let's see how you configure the SmartSync itself. With this release, we've introduced a dedicated new menu item called synchronization. This menu item will take you to a Woodford page where you can find additional things, not just SmartSync. The first of them is the so-called Advanced Sync Config. The second one is File and Attachments Sync Config. And last but not least, SmartSync Config. Let's keep those two and go into SmartSync itself. Immediately, you will be welcomed by a completely new user interface where you can specify a SmartSync profile. You start by defining a name and working with the idea which specific entities and data you might want to sync. I have an example here where I would like to refresh work orders. So it should be relatively simple and the data set is rather limited. So I give it some description. So I would like to refresh the work orders entity and any assets related to it. I'm done with that. Then I want to also configure whether I want to upload and download the data, or I just want to download or upload. At the same time, it's very important that I can specify any exclusions. By exclusions, we mean things or steps which you skip inside of the sync process itself. So, for example, attachments, images, documents, any bigger types of files or any bigger types of entities or records you might think you do not need. So I skip 3 of them. So the next step is to actually select the target entities which should be used when performing such a sync. So over here, you have a drop-down of all entities that you have active in your organization and have them enabled. I selected the work order entity and I can see that it is now targeted. You can also see that I can choose its relations. You have a set of options: no related entities, immediate related entities, and deep related entities. So this basically means I can also select the immediate related entities and find the assets. So I added it in there, the work order plus immediate related entities. Now I can explore their relations, and I can see that there are too many relations. Oh wow, that's basically my whole organization and set of entities. That means this way it won't work. So I will need to do an alternative approach, which should be much simpler. I will just add a second entity and basically target two entities altogether. So once again, go to the drop-down, select the assets entity, and I just have work orders and assets. Simple as that. No relations, because I know they're related and I want their data. Now, if I look at the exclusions, I skipped entity images, documents, and attachments. If there are any, basically these will not be synced with this SmartSync profile. I'm happy with that. Let's move to the third step called triggers. With triggers, you specify an action based on which the specific SmartSync profile is triggered automatically. So we have three different actions. First, we have an on-change action where you target a specific entity, let's say an account entity. And you can also specify the delay after the trigger happens. In, let's say, 5 seconds, the SmartSync should be started. Alternatively, you have on app start, which means you have the option to sync the data when the app starts. Then you have a periodic sync, which will happen in recurrence. So let's say we give it 300 seconds, and this means in a couple of minutes, I will always get this set of data refreshed automatically. So with this specific SmartSync profile, I'm happy. We can also look at other examples with a more specific and more complex scenario. So let's think. Let me name this one refresh account, and maybe its relations. Okay, so let's give it some description so I know what I'm targeting as well. And anyone who encounters this profile in Woodford also will understand. So in this profile, I would like to refresh all the account data and its immediate relations. And I should also exclude any, let's say, stable entities, maybe images, maybe bigger files and attachments. This should give me a good leverage to make this sync really fast and really performant. Okay, that makes sense to me. Let's do that. Now I've defined my goal in the description. I can now add the specific entity for account. I add immediate related entities, and I can specify its relations in the Explore Relations list. So I can see all of them are in there. Now I target the exclusions. I don't want any images. I do not want any larger files, attachments. So I skip documents, images, and attachments altogether. If we now look at the profile itself, there's something missing. I also specified stable entities. So what does it mean? There are exclusions for entities, not just for the modules of the sync. There are things called global exclusions and auto exclusions, but you can also add manual exclusions just for the profile itself. If we specify a set of global exclusions, we have a couple of options in there. We have the auto detect and manual add of any exclusion of an entity. So let's say we add auditing as an example of manually added global exclusion. We can also use the auto detect stable entities button, and then it will be immediately represented in the global exclusions list. I have the accept global exclusions toggled on for the profile, but I can also specify it for any other profile. That's the main point of global exclusions. It's like a global variable when you're working with code, for example. But you can also specify the stable entities inside of the global exclusions at this specific point in time. This is basically a detection of entities which are rarely changed. This is automatically detected, and these entities are added to the list with one click. We recommend to basically use this list, but you can also think about removing any of them if you think they're still relevant. Now, looking at this list, I'm quite satisfied. I think we can use it for global exclusions. Most of the data in there might be very rarely looked at. Now, global exclusions are one part. The other part is the auto exclusions underneath. Now, these are also stable entities, but they are basically determined at the runtime of the sync itself, not in some sort of a list that's predefined. This means that you can basically accept auto exclusions even if they evolve in time and still get the most relevant sync results. Now, I'm actually quite confident that this profile will work. Now, let's look into the mobile app and check the triggers themselves. So, as explained in Woodford, by default, we have a set of 3 triggers, which you can specify in a profile. The first is the on-app start trigger. For example, if I want, I can set that when the app starts, I want to trigger a specific smart profile, let's say with a 10-second delay. So 10 seconds after the app starts, you would get a small granular data refresh based on how you specify it. Alternatively, as I specified for one of my profiles, you can have the sync happen periodically, let's say every 300 seconds. This is very useful in scenarios where you think people do not even need to manually save and then sync the data because it happens automatically. Or vice versa, if you have people updating data in the backend, it's very useful. Last but not least, you have the on change, which basically means if you change anything inside of a record of an entity, this is the trigger. And it can also be set to a delay. Let's say 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever you prefer. One thing I did not talk about yet are commands and buttons. So in Woodford, you can specify that a certain SmartSync profile can be used as a command and then, of course, in a button. If you would click, let's say, refresh work orders, it could use the profile as specified for refreshing the work orders themselves. So very handy if you also want to introduce some manual actions, not just automatic triggers. Now, looking at SmartSync, we believe that you will get a lot of business value out of it. For example, much faster access to critical information in the field for field users. If you specify small granular smart syncs that happen on a regular basis, this is very handy. You save a lot of time for them. You save a lot of data that needs to be in transit. And in the end, all the infrastructure things are covered much better. Then you have much greater control over how the mobile users interact with the data itself, because you can also have them perform the SmartSync manually. This means you have a lot of ways how to configure it automatically, manually, via user intent, or somewhere under the hood. Last but not least, and this is the most important part, the productivity improvements via reduced sync times can be significant based on how you configure this. if you've experienced scenarios where incremental syncs with sync filters are not enough, or you do not even know how to do this properly because it's too complicated, Smart Sync actually might be for you. Now, that's it about Smart Sync. Let's move to another topic. We have been looking into our mobile forms and how you can navigate in them. We have created a new system called Pages. Before we hop into that, let's once again recap what sort of problems we have identified in our current mobile forms. So, forms with many tabs and large datasets usually suffer from performance issues. It also might be tied to some hidden iframes or maybe some sort of configuration options that you have set, but we know it's a problem. At the same time, important tabs are often buried deep in the form layout itself, slowing down everyday tasks, appointments, work orders, etc. Because people need to basically dig into a huge form and it's not very intuitive. Last but not least, forms can be visually cluttered and difficult to scan, so this reduces usability and literally increases the cognitive load of the person interacting with the form. These problems actually source from the layout and the design and the philosophy of the form itself. We currently support 2 different layouts and they're not combined at all. One of them is called tabbed UI, or you could call it non-flexible form. This is a form where you have a set of navigation items on the bottom and you have a single tab on every one of them. Alternatively, you have a flexible form which has many tabs but lacks the navigation items, so you can distribute the content meaningfully into some logical steps or groups. Hopefully you already know where I'm going with this, so let's look at the solution. Once again, same as with SmartSync. The Pages system depends on 2 things, Woodford and the mobile app. Woodford is the crucial part for designing how forms should be interacted with based on user intent, workflows, business logic, whatever you want to deem it on. The mobile app itself is the tool which basically enables you to display that and make the users utilize what you built. We look into the Woodford itself and the app on the right next to it. If we go into Woodford in 19.1, you can immediately see that the layout of the form designer is different. And there's a new thing on the bottom. That's a navigation bar, same as we had in the non-flexible forms. But wait, I already have a set of tabs, not just a single tab. And I can also move it. Wow, that's amazing. What we did here, without any further banter, we basically combined the 2 different aspects of forms, 2 different layouts, and you can now customize them to your heart's desire. You can have as many tabs as you want on one single navigation page. You can set up the pages on top, on bottom. You can do different layouts of text icons. You can specify if you do not want any of the information cluttering a single tab to either create a new one or group it all together in a more meaningful manner. As an example, I will now create a products page which I will move the opportunity products list tab into. It's going to be just a single tab navigation item, a new page with a single purpose to just display the list of opportunity products. Now I'm connected via live preview, so I just save it. I see that the tab is no longer present in the first page and a new page is created and the list is here. Great. This already makes the form much more readable for me. Now there's also activity list, which I don't think really fits in there. So let me create another one called activities. Let's make it a single pane layout, give it an icon, and move the activities list in there. Okay, that's it. Let's save. Wow, that's much cleaner. I have just a single task to perform. That's lovely. Now, if I go back into the form itself, this is a much clearer, much more logically structured form already. There's no clutter. The technician or a salesperson who has this opportunity can immediately see all relevant things in some logical manner. This is amazing for many different purposes. Let's talk about them. When you have the editor itself, you are trying to look at a form, how it should look like, not just how the data is structured or which fields should be in there. While reworking this functionality and introducing pages, we have also looked into the what you see is what you get kind of approach. Previously, before 19.1, you did not get all that much of a feedback from the editor itself. Many of the parameters or toggles, settings you had in there did not really do anything to the designer part. In the app, you've always seen the changes. This is something we've changed, and you should see much, much better representation of a form inside of the editor itself. Now, looking at the business value aspect, we would like to give you improved form performance and reduce loading times by giving you this ability to structure the form in a more organized manner. Why? If you open a form and only a single page is open, you basically load just that set of data. If you switch to a different page, a different set of data loads. It's granular, it's faster, and it gives you much better performance because you can now split a huge form. Let's say you have 20 different tabs. We have those use cases. Now you can have, let's say, 6 pages with just a small handful of them. That's much better. Now, for end users, we believe they will have faster access to relevant information and form sections because it's going to be logically ordered if you configure it like that. And last but not least, for you guys, we would like to believe you will have increased flexibility for designing forms that actually reflect the user intent. Often, this was a problem because logical segmentation of a form was either a full-blown extreme that only a single tab can be used per page, or you could not even use pages at all, and everything was cluttered. So that's it for pages. Now, moving on to a different topic. Live Preview, Volume 2. If you remember, in release 19.0, we introduced this thing called Live Preview, which gives you really much faster feedback loops and gives you good visibility into what you're designing and working on without needing to publish. But we heard you, we have the feedback. In 19.0, we released support only for views and forms. This is definitely not enough. This lack of support for any additional components introduces inconsistency in your testing and feedback loop workflows. We hear you, and we have worked on it further. With 19.1, we are introducing additional components. First, calendar. Second, route plan. Third, map. And fourth, dashboard. Now you can utilize Live Preview with all of these additional components, and I can safely say more are to come based on your feedback. Looking at the business value aspect, with a more meaningful, streamlined set of components, we'd like to give you a streamlined way of getting the project feedback early, faster time to market possibilities, better than before, and last but not least, a cost-effective iteration which saves you time and money. Now, that's it from me, and I will hand over the word now to my colleague Janka, will give you a bit more information about Resco Forms.
Thank you, Alex, for having the opportunity to talk about our further product, Resco Forms. I will go through the new capabilities of our product, Resco Forms, that is known as Resco questionnaires or Resco inspections. So the first capability we built during this release is Table View. It was decided to go to that capability because we heard a lot of feedback from you, our clients, that the current grid view that is built in a vertical perspective has really the same labels that displayed on for every repeatable instance. You can see that name, surname, or membership is always repeating itself. Also, when end user goes through the whole instances of the group, he must scroll massively, and it happens that end user skips important values or he forgets to enter the missing variables. I will explain you our solution. Table View was built in a questionnaire designer where you can find two ways how to set it up. You can keep the previous version of the view as which is named cards, or you can use this new view, Table View. On the right side, you can see how it looks in the Resco mobile application. So right now we will go through several demos. The first demo will show you how Table View looks in our Power Apps model-driven application. So on the screen, you can find the view which was configured in one row. So all questions are in the same row, and another added new instance of question group are listed below. So this is the high density view of how end user can collect a lot of data for multiple people with multiple names, surnames, terms, and so on. Also, you can see that there is a way to build the view with multiple rows, not just with the one row. So the second repeatable group is configured to available end user to collect data in a more narrow view because questions are configured in two rows. The second video shows how our new table view works on Power Pages. You can see that the form looks pretty the same as you could see on a model-driven application. So Power Pages where you can collect data from external users. The third demo is how our table view is visible in Resco Mobile application. You can find that this density view works perfectly also in narrow screens. End user can find a lot of data on one screen. Based on what you saw during the demos, we can definitely demonstrate that our new table view speeds up data entry for end user because he doesn't need to scroll through the whole long form. Also, the accuracy is improved quite massively because end user can see a lot of data about the similar type of assets on one screen. In this case, the asset is the persona. And last but not least, the layout supports all our rules that AppMaker configures in Questionnaire Designer. Another component that we are bringing during this release is barcode scanning. Barcode scanning is something that we were missing in Generation 2. It existed in Generation 1. We know about end users struggling with the slow and inconvenient ways how to collect long and complicated numbers or IDs during the inspection. Also, manual data entry increases the risk of mistakes. For example, you could see on the screen that complex serial number was filled in the wrong way, and if it is saved, the wrong data are collected in the database. Also, scanning in the past couldn't be simply configured for lookup questions. Right now, it is possible. So let's see what is the solution. Barcode scanning is implemented as the type of the data entry for multiple type of questions, which is text, number, URL, email, and also question lookup. During the demo, I will show you how it works for the short text type of the question. On the left side, you can see that short text had configured barcode scanning, and on the right side, you can see how end user collects the data in the application. This is the serial number that was scanned automatically without using any manual data entry. Inspector can go to the field and can scan serial numbers of multiple extinguishers without doing any typo. During the second demo, I will show you how to configure barcode scanning in the questionnaire designer. So on the screen, you can find that a new lookup question component was added into the designer, and AppMaker must set up the target. The target was chosen from the database, was custom asset, for which AppMaker must select the specific field which barcode will be scanned during the inspection. And voila, here is the application. In the case of this demo, it is a field service mobile application where end user goes, choose his own work order, selects the proper form for the inspection, and can collect the data immediately. Once the user adds new extinguisher, he can do the barcode scanning. You can see that he is scanning the serial number. But in this case, as the scanning was done based on the field serial number, it doesn't necessarily has to be visible on the screen. So let's recap the business value of the barcode scanning component. Using the scanning, data accuracy is improved, and end user doesn't need to provide manual typing, but rather scan the proper ID or the number of the asset, and the data are collected appropriately and correctly in the database. Another components we made for Resco Forms are rating and slider components. So the AppMaker struggles with setting the range or configure scores, for example, the noise intensity that I am showing you on the right side, with by using the standard fields as is number or single select. Those components, they don't show minimum and maximum value for the user. They do not offer visual context for end user, and they are not user-friendly. That's why we decided to build those two components in our questionnaire designer. I can just show you how this noise intensity can be built in a different and better way. So for slider, I chosen whole number component, and I turned on the slider type of data entry. I can select if I want to show numbers, minimum, maximum value for this component. The second option, how to build this noise intensity measurements, is by using rating. For rating, it is much simpler because once I set up the maximum value, questionnaire designer offers me pre-configured options that I can use or I can adapt. Rating can use different icons and can have a different size. All of that must be configured in the designer by AppMaker. Right now, I will show you how rating and slider looks in model-driven application. So here are several use cases how you can use the slider for collecting percentages, for collecting estimated repair costs, and similar for the rating. End user can very easily select what is the severity of the issue or what is the overall condition of the asset. And if there is a survey and customer can decide how satisfied is with the service of the company. Another use case is to use the same form on Power Pages. You can see that the rules works nicely also on this platform when it comes to visibility of the rating and how easy and user-friendly it is for end customer. It is really the same here. And I can't skip our Resco mobile application. So again, the same form used in the mobile Resco application. And you can see that experience of the end user is very similar as on the previous platforms. So let me recap what is the business value of rating and slider. The data entry is for end user faster and much more intuitive as with the standard components. Rating and slider gives end user the context of the collected data. And last but not least, those components provide consistent responses from feedback, assessments, or measure ranges. Another capability we brought during this release is to get form preview in Questionnaire Designer. When AppMaker wanted to configure in which cases some questions should be displayed or should be mandatory or should be skipped, he wasn't able to see the behavior directly in the Questionnaire Designer, but he had to leave the application and go to different one. This is the reason why we decided to build preview directly in our Questionnaire Designer. So let's see how it looks. Welcome in our designer where AppMaker can configure the individual questions, can play with the logo, size of the logo, can play with the type of the questions, and can configure rules directly in the designer. And without any need to leave to check the behavior, AppMaker can just click the preview and sees what is the behavior of the configured form. Once he finds out that there is some mistake or something is missing or is too much of information over there, he can just close the preview and do corrections directly in the designer. Also, you can see that AppMaker can play with the size of the screen. So he knows immediately how the screen will looks like on small mobile phone or on big Power Pages. What is really the value of the preview? First of all, AppMaker has much better experience. He can avoid doing typos and switching from one app to another app. The building of the form is much smoother and much more efficient. So the last demo from me is about the beta version of external users solution that can be used outside of Power Pages. Please just be aware that the functionality is not available for the GA release 19.1, but it will be done several weeks later and available for you to test. Some of you already know that we were focusing on external users already some time. And that's the reason. We understand that in case of contractors or citizens who need to collect data in the form just once or maybe few times a year, it's too complicated to install Resco mobile application. Or even for Power Pages, it's quite costly and heavy solution. if the use case is just simple. And last but not least, Resco didn't have an opportunity to use shareable links for data collection of external users. During the next minutes, I will share several demos with you, where I will demonstrate our solution, how to use Resco Forms for collecting data from external users. So the first demo is for contractors, how they use our Resco Forms during inspection. You can see that this is the way how AppMaker can use our PCF component, can select that this form will be opened just once, and copies the link for the inspector. Inspector opens the link directly in the web browser and do data collection immediately. Once a contractor fills in all necessary data and completes the form, data are stored in the Dataverse immediately. Manager can review the result, and also, if you remember in the beginning, the form was configured to be opened just once. So you can see that inspector wasn't able to open the form a second time. But it depends really on the configuration. The second demo will demonstrate how end customer can collect feedback via email. Let's go again to our model-driven application where the PCF component is added to account entity, and AppMaker creates the link without configuring a limited number of attempts to open the form. Very easily configures the email where the form should be sent. In this case, it is me. Let's consider me as a customer of the company that provides inspection in my office building. So I open the form and I have an opportunity to provide feedback to the inspector who came to the Resco premises and did the inspection of fire extinguishers. Once I complete the survey, data are automatically stored in the Dataverse of the organization. Managers can go to model-driven application and to see what is the satisfaction of the end customer with the inspector, who is part of his team. The last use case, how to use our Resco Forms out of the Power Pages, is for AppMaker to use code of the form directly on the website of the organization. AppMaker easily copies the code, goes to the HTML of the company website, and inserts the code of the form directly into that page. Once the data are saved on the HTML, AppMaker can open the website of the company, just refreshes the page, and the new Resco Forms is already visible for him. And not just for AppMaker, but for any citizen who would like to report incident with the fire protection services via the website of the organization. When the citizen completes the form, data immediately flow to the Dataverse. So, employee responsible for collecting incidents from external users can see incident details collected in the Dataverse immediately. So during those 3 demos, you could see that our Resco Forms can work for various personas of external users who can collect data without installing a mobile application, app-makers who can very easily create link, share it via email, or even to copy and use the code of the form and put it directly to the website of the organization. So it was all from me. Thank you for your attention. And if you want to learn much more details about what me and Alex presented, go to our website and find details in the release notes. And now let's move to Q&A.
Does the on-change trigger only apply if the data was updated from the mobile app, or does it also apply if the data was changed in the backend database from some other processes? Alex.
Okay, so right now the triggers are basically on-device triggers. So it's the client side. Anything you do on the server side, it's not triggering SmartSync.
So yeah, that's the client side only.
Exactly.
Another question, can I have multiple triggers per one SmartSync profile?
Yep. I did not show it in the demo, but you can have as many triggers as you want and literally also specify as many types of commands. So you can have it on different places on forms combined with automatic triggers in the background.
And connected to that, can I specify a SmartSync profile via an XML schema?
Very good question. Yes. I was showing you guys the dedicated user interface that we built so you can understand how to work with SmartSync. But if you are a, let's say, more pro-code oriented user, you can just open up the Edit XML Scheme button on top in Woodford and literally just use the XML Scheme editor as in some other cases.
Thank you. And one more question regarding this time it's about pages. So is the pages system backwards compatible? For example, if I already like how my Woodford form is, do I need to do anything to keep it as it is? Or will I automatically keep my existing form layout?
Right, excellent question. I can safely say it is backwards compatible. We made sure that the forms you build are staying the same inside of the mobile app. The only difference basically is inside of the designer. The forms designer is naturally evolving to represent how it in the end will look like inside of the mobile app. So the layout will be different inside of the Woodford Forms designer. The app stays the same. You can basically open up any app project, any form, check it out for yourself, and see that it still stays the same even after updating to 19.1.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Few questions regarding Resco Forms. Is the external user Resco solution already available, Janka?
Yes, so the collecting data from external users are already available via Power Pages or Resco Mobile application. And very soon we are bringing the solution that I was demonstrating a few minutes ago to collect data via website from external users outside of the Power Page. We plan to do that in phases. The first phase will be to launch the testing beta version solution during the summer, probably in August. And the product version of the solution, product ready one, will be available during the next release 19.2.
Thank you. Another question, again regarding Resco Forms. This one is good. Are the ratings displayed on the questionnaire report just like they are on the questionnaire template?
Thank you very much for the question. The rating and slider components were built really very recently. So this is like the plan on our roadmap to bring them to the reports. Currently, they are not available in reports.
Thank you, Janka. Okay. Will authenticated external users also be supported?
Yes, for sure. Authenticated users or support of data collection from authenticated users is something we really want to achieve. This is on our roadmap for the next year. We wish to launch it in the beginning of 2027.
Mm-hmm. And one more question regarding the Resco Forms. About table view. Do I need to redesign the form or remap data with the new table view?
Mm-hmm. No, I hope that once you see my recording again, you will find out that it is very easy to configure table view. You will just push the button, and capability uses existing grid layout and repeatable groups. So this is basically table view is a kind of density view for the end users who can see data in UI and collect data very easily.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Janka. I think we answered most of the questions. With the rest of the questions we had, we will get back to you. See you soon on one of our next webinars. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.